9:33 p.m. July 19th. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late because I got a speeding ticket on my way home from the gym tonight. They had a speed trap set up leaving Quebec, about to cross the bridge back into Ontario, and the bastards gave me a $126 speeding ticket. And on top of that, some asshole stole my sandals at the gym. So I'm really not having the best day, but I will get into the news. Smackdown on Friday night did a 0.45 rating. They've been getting in the 0.4s a lot lately. That's with Bruce Pritchard as head of creative. Lance Storm was one of the WWE agents / producers that were quote unquote furloughed last April. And he posted today that for what it's worth, he is now officially he's officially unemployed for the first time since he left Smoky Mountain Wrestling in 1994. It's really funny that, to my knowledge, they kept Sylvain Grenier on as a producer, yet Lance Storm has been fully released now. So it just shows you how much pull Pat Patterson still has back there. Unless Sylvain has been quietly released and it hasn't come out, but I haven't read anything about Sylvain Grenier being released, and in my opinion, Lance Storm makes a lot more sense to keep on as a producer than Sylvain Grenier, who I think was out of the business, and he was actually part of that concussions lawsuit against WWE before they hired him back. Here's a piece of trivia for you. Sylvain Grenier is the first person that was part of that concussions lawsuit suing WWE, that WWE brought back to work for them. There's still a lot that were part of that they're holding a grudge against. Bobby Fulton, who you can look up on here, I did a mini shoot interview with him last year when I was in Columbus, Ohio. He is back in the hospital. I know he's been having a number of health issues lately. He posted recently that he was fully retired from wrestling. Obviously, I don't even think that you can wrestle in Ohio right now anyways, where he's from. I know he was a promoter there too. But Les Thatcher, I guess, posted that Fulton's cancer has returned. So I hope that that's not true. Seems like a nice guy. Best of luck to him recovering from whatever it is. The TNA pay-per-view last night, the TNA Impact pay-per-view, had a lot of problems related to production, according to Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer. It was not a smoothly produced pay-per-view for the handful of people that watched it. Mike Hamilton tipped me $10. And he says it's clear as day Dominik is going to turn on Rey Mysterio at some point. Dumb angle. He looks like a seventh grader. I agree that Dominik only has a job because his dad's Rey Mysterio, who, as far as I know, is still a free agent right now. He's getting paid per appearance. As far as I know, he hasn't re-signed with WWE, and according to reports, one of the factors on whether he will re-sign or not will probably have to do with, for instance, whether WWE wants to sign Dominik for a long-term deal. But I interviewed a girl earlier this week, Just Jessie from the UK, and she's actually a fan of the current product. And one of the reasons I interviewed her above to get her perspective on the UK scene, because she's a reporter of the UK scene, was to get like a perspective of someone who actually watches the product and doesn't mind it. And even she said that she didn't find Dominik entertaining. So that tells you something when a fan of the current product doesn't see anything in Dominik. But I understand WWE probably does not want Ray jumping to AEW, so they'll probably put Dominik under contract. Also, he's got the family legacy. He just doesn't appear to have the family talent at this point in time. Maybe he'll develop it. Joey Ryan put out a video that has had a ton of negative feedback. I really have always thought this guy was a slime ball and a true detriment to the professional wrestling business. He's basically saying in this video that he's undergoing therapy, and one of the reasons why he hasn't made a statement is because his therapist doesn't want him interacting too much on social media. He doesn't like wrestling traditions like kayfabe. He doesn't believe in that, he says. What that has to do with the allegations, I don't know. But the guy is a piece of shit, slime ball, who really has turned people way more off wrestling over the years than have been turned on to it. Yes, some of his dick grabbing stuff does get views, but people don't see that and say, oh my God, I better start watching wrestling now. This looks so cool. I want to see people grabbing each other's dicks. This is awesome. What they see when they see that is, oh my God, this is so stupid. I can't believe wrestling's become that. Then they share it because of how stupid it is. It doesn't actually make new fans. There's a very small percentage of people that find that entertaining. But this is supposed to be wrestling, not porn. When you go to wrestling school, that's not something you should have to learn, how to have your genitals touched, male or female. You should never be in a position as a wrestler, unless it is a wrestling porn, where someone's going to grab your genitals, male or female. That is not wrestling. That is actually porn. This Will Ospreay guy that's been involved in the speaking out movement for supposedly getting a girl blackballed that had allegations against one of his buddies. He's in the news for depression and supposedly suicidal thoughts. Oh, poor you. Who the fuck isn't depressed during this horrible lockdown time? You've got a job with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Everyone's depressed. Welcome to the lockdown times. I'm sick and tired of people whining, complaining about their depression. Everyone is depressed. Everyone. We don't have much freedom. We have to walk around with masks on or face fines. The world sucks right now. So if you're depressed, sorry you're depressed. Welcome to the world that everyone else is in. I don't feel any worse for you than anybody else. And if you being involved in the speaking out crap is giving you suicidal thoughts, maybe you should have paid more attention to your actions when you made your actions, allegedly, according to reports. There was a UFC event last night. There's a new flyweight champion, Henry Cejudo, who is now training at Team Vision Dojo for pro wrestling, vacated flyweight title due to, for what I believe was a money issue. He didn't feel he was getting paid enough money. So the new champion is, I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but Devon Figueiredo. He dominated Joseph Benavidez on Saturday to win that title. Now, I'm sorry, I don't really pay much attention to the flyweight division. Nothing against their talent, but the divisions I like to watch is heavyweight, which is my own division, and females, because I love to watch females go at it. So that's about it for the news today. Oh, the other note is Gallows and Anderson. They've put out a statement that they feel that it's Paul Heyman was the one that wanted them to be released when they were released by WWE earlier this year. And apparently, according to reports, the reason why AJ Styles requested to be moved from Raw to SmackDown was because at that time Paul Heyman was still the head writer for Raw. And because Paul Heyman reportedly wanted Gallows and Anderson released, AJ Styles didn't want to be part of Raw anymore, so he asked to be moved to SmackDown. Dave Meltzer points out that any decision on who gets released ultimately is in Vince McMahon's hands, unless it's like a developmental talent. Like whenever they decided to release me before I even started with the company, I'm sure that was a Johnny Ace decision, actually. Didn't go high enough to get to Vince, but like when you're on the main roster, I'm sure it's passed through Vince McMahon before you finally get released, especially Gallows and Anderson, who were reportedly making like $750,000 a year, which is huge money. And from what I understand, they regret not signing with AEW, obviously, because they ended up getting released from those big contracts, and now they don't have as much bargaining power. So sorry for them. I do like Luke Gallows. I've always got along with him. I'm sure he's going to end up back in New Japan, and good luck to him there. He was always a nice guy in my dealings with him. I did have him on the list for shoot interviews. People voted. Almost 4,000 people voted, and Butterbean won. Butterbean won. He was the clear winner. Scott Norton was second, and Boss Rutan was third. So I'll try and get the top three. Bit of trivia here for you that my friend Brian sent me today. Which was the only WrestleMania that didn't feature a defense of the world title? Let me know in the comments as I answer some of your questions. Let me know if you can answer me that. By the way, I did do a review of They Live. That was Roddy Piper's biggest movie, I guess you could say. It's on here. I had good feedback on it. I watched it last night, did a review. And one thing about the aliens walking amongst us in that movie that I forgot to mention when I did that review is I had a close friend. I'm not really that close with him anymore, but his father was a very high-ranking officer in the Canadian military, like extremely high-ranking. I mean, I have interviewed the former Minister of Defense for Canada, Paul Hellyer. You can look that up on this channel. I mean, he's admitted about UFO visitation to Earth. But my friend's father, when my friend asked his father, who is a high-ranking officer in the Canadian military, what his views on UFOs and aliens were, the father responded, quote, "I can't tell you what I know, but I can tell you they walk among us." That's coming from a very credible, close friend of mine whose father is legitimately, he's retired now, recently retired, but his father was one of the highest ranking officers in Canada. I do live in the capital of Canada here, Ottawa, where a lot of high-ranking officers are based, as his father was, but his father was obviously based all over the world. But I always found that interesting because the whole premise of They Live is the aliens walking among us, and his father told him that. And his father obviously is very credible and said he can't say anything more than that. So I just wanted to bring that up because I forgot to mention it in my review of They Live last night. Tara Nunga says, was I 300 pounds in the photo I used as the screenshot of this back when I was Intercontinental Champion in IWA Puerto Rico? I was probably 280, 285. Right now, I'm not that far off from that weight. Tipped me $15 and says he ordered some protein bars from Redcon1 with my promo code and got a 20% discount. And if anyone wants to order supplements, Redcon1, I am working with them. Use the link that's in the description of this video. It's also on the HannibalTV.com website. And above the link is the promo code that'll get you 20% off. The more people that use it, the more supplements they're going to send me to test out. I still haven't received my first order of supplements from Redcon1, but thank you, Double S, for using my promo code that is in the description of this video. It's also at thehannibaltv.com. Braun Strowman is also sponsored by Redcon1. And when I get my order, I'll let you know how it goes. As I said, I had a great workout today. Other than when I finish, I find out my favorite pair of sandals were stolen. Then I get the $126 speeding ticket. So for the $10 and $15 that I was tipped tonight, that's extra appreciated tonight because of that really put me in a bad mood. I'm going to run and use my punching bag later because I have some aggression to take out because of that. Maria Davis, what wrestling association was I in when that photo was taken? That's IWA Puerto Rico, where I wrestled for them in 2005. Then I made the mistake of switching to WWC Puerto Rico, where I was supposed to be making $100 more a week, but there was continuous pay issues in WWC Puerto Rico. There was never one single pay issue in IWA Puerto Rico. Carlos Colon is a scumbag, total piece of shit. And not just because of that, not because of my personal dealings with him. There's always been talk that Brody was owed a bunch of money from WWC Puerto Rico when he was killed. The anniversary, by the way, was just a couple of days ago on the 17th. And it's quite obvious there was a cover-up there. Quite obvious. And many people believe that Cologne was in on it. Abdullah told me once when I was driving with him, when we were still friends before I found out that he passed hepatitis C to me, that he was aware something was going to happen that night, but he didn't think a killing was going to happen. And of course, Abdullah was part of the office at that time too. Colonel Quayle says, take off to the great white north. It's a beauty way to go. I've had enough of the Great White North, to be honest. I'm pissed off that I can only do Skype interviews right now because the borders are closed. The work that I like to do is down there. And I wish I could be in Minnesota right now interviewing Jesse Ventura. I've been stuck here for a while now with no end in sight. And maybe this whole speeding ticket thing today added some salt into my wounds, but I'm fucking pissed. I've had enough of Canada. To the guy saying Barry Harwood's interview, no, he was rude to me. I don't interview people that are rude to me. Tony Smith tipped me $5. If you could make Jose Gonzalez disappear, no guilt, would I? I think you already know the answer to that question. That doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure that one out. Ralph Vaquero, how's it going, everyone? I think everyone's doing all right. Mike F. asked what the best-looking WWF/WWE championship of all time was. He liked the Winged Eagle one. That one's up there for sure. Maybe my second favorite. My favorite is the one that Superstar Billy Graham had. Hurricane Maverick Alexander, good buddy of mine, says, hopefully I'm surviving. Keep up the great content. Yes, I'm surviving. I'm happy despite that I'm having to travel to Quebec to train, because in Ontario they've recently opened the gyms, but you got to wear a mask to work out, which I don't want to do. So again, this time is depressing for everyone, not just poor Will Ospreay, but we're hanging in there. Tara Nunga says, I'm crap. Ralph, how are you? Someone says, thanks for the news. No, I haven't heard from Billy Jack Haynes. David, I don't expect to hear from him. Mike DeLeo, I should do a Slick/Akeem interview. From what I understand, Akeem lives in Louisiana. If I ever run into him at a convention, I would interview him 100%. Jim Harder praying for Bobby Fulton. Ralph Vaquero says wrestling's a joke now. I would rather review movies like They Live and Tag Team and The Wrestler I recently reviewed, or No Holds Barred. I have more enjoyment reviewing movies I've already seen than watching wrestling now. The last time I tried to watch wrestling was the Orange Cassidy Chris Jericho main event from a few weeks ago on AEW, where I lasted about 2 minutes into a 20-minute match because Chris Jericho, who outweighs him by, it looks like at least 80 pounds, 60 to 80 pounds, just bumping like crazy for Orange Cassidy. And it was so unbelievable that I couldn't subject myself to it. Meekin-headed freak says Dominik needs to hit the gym. Mike Hamilton tips me $10 and says I should do a Virgil shoot. Thanks for the tip, Mike. And funny that you mentioned that. I was talking to a guy last night, Nicholas Massey, who has been doing like some online auctions with Virgil. And he said, Virgil, I guess, doesn't have a cell phone. So he doesn't have access to Skype, but this Nicholas Massey guy who runs the Captain's Corner autograph show, he's helped me with a bunch of interviews. He says next time him and Virgil are together, he's going to talk to me first, and Virgil will go on his Skype and do an interview. So, Mike, your wish is going to come true. Thanks for the tip. That tip will help make your beloved Virgil interview happen. Virgil, he was in Toronto a few years ago, but he also has another agent, which I don't know if he's affiliated with these dickheads anymore. They're the same guys that represent Iron Sheik now, and they blocked me from interviewing both the Iron Sheik and Virgil. And it was funny because both of those guys need money, and like you're denying those guys a payday. I don't get it. They're called the Megan Boys. They're actually the ones that run the Iron Sheik's Twitter. It's not the Iron Sheik that makes his tweets. It's the Megan Boys, two twins from Toronto. I wrestled for them once. They actually paid me well. I'll tell you a funny story about wrestling for those guys. Kevin Nash was on the show, but it was for like some very rich 13-year-old kid's bar mitzvah party. And like there was an open bar for the wrestlers in the back. and there was only like 3 matches on the show, and Kevin Nash was just appearing on the show. I did interview Nash that day, but because it was at a party, there's like a lot of feedback in the background. I only recorded it with my cell phone. But those guys, what they actually wanted to happen was after I won my match, they wanted Kevin Nash to come in the ring and powerbomb me and then call the 13-year-old in the ring to pin me. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. That was not part of the deal. I came here to wrestle. I'll have my match, but I'm not getting paid by a 13-year-old. Sorry. Not happening. And that's no, Kevin Nash told me he understood. It's like, it doesn't matter if Nash is the one that runs into the ring and power bombs me. I am not doing that under any circumstances. And I didn't. Matt Pepper says Ray has sent Dominik to tons of trainers. I think it's going to be a while before he gets good if he's going to be a mainstay in the business. Jim Harder says Joey Ryan is feces. I would love to fight Joey Ryan in an MMA fight. If Bellator wanted to put on a fight that would see Joey Ryan get the ass kicking that he deserves, I would love to beat him up. I absolutely can't stand him. And what a loser. There's no other word to describe him but a complete loser. And I really sincerely hope no one books that piece of shit anymore. David Hugh, has there been any formal charges filed on anyone for speaking out? No. No, Joey Ryan has almost 20 accusers, but no formal charges on anyone to my knowledge, which is, I think Piper's daughter Teal said it the best. She did an interview with Rick Bassman this week, Teal Piper. It's on Rick Bassman's Talking Tough YouTube channel, but there's also a clip of her interview on my channel. We're working together, Rick Bassman and I. Search it up, Teal Piper Talking Tough, or just look in my videos from this week. She had a good point that the wrestling industry is a very vengeful industry. So you have to take a lot of allegations with a grain of salt because probably 50% of the allegations are probably true. And the other 50% are people that don't like you for whatever reason and are out to get you. Now, in a case where you have 20 accusers, I don't know. But in a case where there's only one or two, who knows? Who knows? But what I would recommend to any of the people that have issues, if you have been sexually assaulted, go to the police, deal with it the official way. That will stop them. Okay? Look at this. Joey Ryan has had like 20 accusers, and he's still out there running his mouth. If you want to actually do something about it, have him arrested if there's an actual sexual assault that has occurred, for example. That is my suggestion to anyone that has issues. Go to the proper authorities. And if it's not like a criminal situation, go to the promoter on the wrestling event. And then if you don't like how the promoter handles it, figure out another way. Talk to a lawyer. But just shaming people on social media, in the long run, I don't think it's going to do much because people forget. Joey Ryan only disappeared for, a month? And he's already back out there running his mouth again. So please file formal charges. I would like to see that happening. Tara Nunja, am I going to compete in any grappling matches? No. I've been working on my striking in recent years. The last grappling tournament I did was 2010. I won the provincials here in Ontario in both the heavyweight and absolute division. I have zero interest in grappling. I'm 37 years old. Whenever you're continuously training and grappling, it starts to take its toll on your joints. And I like striking. I actually like hitting people. There's a bunch of grappling moves I know how to do really well. Maybe, let's say, a handful of them. So I think I know enough grappling. I'll still roll here and there, don't get me wrong. But I just am not really a fan of grappling. I like fighting. I like striking. And I do like amateur wrestling. I like the takedowns and stuff. But grappling, I think I've won the Canadian Open and I won the provincials here in Ontario. So I really don't have any interest in doing grappling. I would take an MMA fight if I was paid a lot of money. But at my age, I don't want to do anything for free. I want to make money. Like videos I do on YouTube, I make money. I don't want to work for free anymore. And I sure as hell don't want to spend months training for a grappling competition where all you're going to get is a trophy or a small amount of money that's not going to even cover your travel or training expenses. Jefferson E. White says he'd be embarrassed if people he knew saw him watching something that Joey Ryan was associated with. I would too. Meekin-headed Freak says Tessa Blanchard having a street fight with Sami Callihan also got views. Doesn't mean it's good publicity. No. I mean, Impact is lower than it's ever been. They don't release viewership. They don't release pay-per-view buys. Quite frankly, nobody cares about the product. They've killed their own product. But I did see a clip on Twitter the other day of that Tessa Blanchard versus Sami Callihan street fight. And I like Sami Callihan. I've interviewed him several times. And honestly, as a wrestler, I like Tessa Blanchard, but I want to see her wrestling girls. It's just unbelievable to me when I saw a clip of that street fight on Twitter. It just looks so phony. I don't want to watch phony shit. I want to watch stuff where I can suspend my disbelief. And by the way, I am on Twitter at Devon Hannibal, DevonHannibal. And if you actually send me a direct message on Twitter and ask me to follow you back, I will. I don't just automatically follow people back anymore because, as all of you probably know, there's fake people that will just add you so you follow them back and then they'll unfollow you. So if you DM me, I will follow you back. Colonel Quayle says, dick grabbings is a story to tell. I've had enough of this storytelling. I posted a clip, speaking of Twitter, on my Devon Hannibal Twitter today, as well as my Devon Hannibal Nicholson Facebook, of an incident. Speaking of Abdullah the Butcher, when I was wrestling him in Montreal, I was attacked by a series of fans. I was a heel. Somebody spit on me. Others tried to attack me. It was a near riot situation. That's real heat. I wasn't telling a story. I was wrestling. People didn't like me. I fired them up enough that they wanted to actually fight me. They didn't really do too well. And also, by the way, I handled that situation without breaking character and without hurting anyone seriously. So that's how great I am as a phenomenal heel. Got to put myself over. No one else will. Actually, I will bring up one thing. Some guy drew like a cartoon of me and put a belt on me saying Hannibal YouTube champion. The only place you're ever going to be over is YouTube. It's like, is that an actual insult? Because YouTube is the future. I mean, I don't even watch TV anymore. I watch YouTube and Netflix. So to be called the YouTube champion, that's not an insult to me. And the only reason, first of all, I was over in IWA Puerto Rico. I was over in WWC Puerto Rico, main event in both of those places. In Stampede Wrestling, I was often in the main events when I was green. In England, I beat Doug Williams in England. I was a main eventer for Brian Dixon when I wrestled in England for the short period of time. So that guy saying the only place I've ever been over in YouTube, I guarantee you, if any, let's say MLW, because I'd only really want to wrestle for MLW in North America, to be honest, other than PCW Ultra. Let's say MLW ever gave me a wrestling shot, I guarantee you I would get over, because I know how to get over. Every platform I've ever been given to get over, I've got over. The only reason I've never been over in WWE, I've never been given the opportunity. And that's a fact. I know the tricks of getting over. 49ers Empire says wrestling is going to get way worse than it is now. Alan Kesselman says Ospreay is a joke. Meekin-headed Freak says Ospreay won't get blackballed in New Japan because Japan is still very chauvinistic. Never been. Don't know much about it. They're afraid of me over there. Hurricane Maverick says hopefully Ospreay will jump off a building. I hate the people that say he's a better technician than Harry Smith, who was trained by Josh Barnett, Billy Robinson, Stu Hart, Davey Boy Smith, Bruce Hart, and is a legitimate shooter and is actually a big, tough guy. I hate the people that compare the two. Colonel Quayle says Joey Ryan reminds me of a Village Person character. Someone says Dominik has no talent. Mike Diola says Eric Bischoff interview. I've asked him once through his agent. His agent at the time was Bill Behrens, and Bischoff said no. Jimmy Smith says hang in there, bud, through tough times. Things will get better hopefully soon. I hope so too. Hopefully it's not like what Roddy Piper's daughter also said. Hopefully this is not actually the beginning stages of Armageddon. Let's hope not. Jefferson E. White says Cejudo didn't want to defend belts. He wants to pick and choose his fights. Alexander, what happened to the real men in wrestling? They're around. I just mentioned Harry Smith. I mentioned me. They're just not getting the opportunities. Actually, one guy who I would classify as a real man who is in NXT now is Karrion Kross. I'll put him over. I mean, I'll give credit where credit is due. People say I'm against NXT because I didn't think Adam Cole was a good champion because he looks like a ninth grader that doesn't work out. That's my real feelings. Karrion Kross, I hope they let him run with the ball. He would be the best guy that they could have leading NXT right now. Someone says Gallows and Anderson from $750,000 a year to $500 per appearance. I don't know about that. As I said, I've never met Anderson, but I can tell you one thing: Gallows is a good guy. I did like his Festus character the best, but he's doing other characters now too. So I wish him luck. Antio Jones says Gallows and Anderson were a piss break. And Antonino says nobody cares about what they did in New Japan 10 years ago. Well, I'll be honest, I didn't watch them. But Luke Gallows personally is a good guy. That's what I can report to you on them. But would I offer them $750 a year? I don't know, because everyone's paid a huge amount of money. Heath Slater was supposedly making $400,000 a year. Somebody actually, a legitimate wrestling reporter, wrote recently that Heath Slater is like the hottest free agent right now. What the hell kind of world are we living in where Heath Slater would be considered a hot free agent? The guy was lucky he had a job as long as he did, let alone make $400,000 a year. I don't see him ever making $400,000 a year again unless he's back with WWE. The sad thing is the superstar Billy Grahams of the world never made $400,000 a year. Tara Nuga says, are you sure Heath Slater was not 40,000, no, 400 grand. So the people that are whining and complaining that, oh, the poor guy was laid off or released, whatever you want to call it. First of all, he was paid up until last week, and he was overpaid the whole time. I've never made, the most I ever made was 100 grand in a year, and I worked my butt off for it, okay? So to have a job where you're on a TV show, you wrestle a fairly light schedule compared to what they used to do. You have catering, medical people in the back. You get to be on TV. To make 400 grand a year, that's pretty damn good. Someone saying, great mood interview, very possible for the future. So I've gone on for 40 minutes here. I'll shut up. The Hannibal TV is on Instagram and Twitter at The Hannibal TV. And if you go to at Devon Hannibal on Twitter, I am there. And if you look in the description, there is a link to the Great North Wrestling Podcast on iTunes. I post my full shoot interviews on there. And of course, Redcon 1, the link is also in the description. If you want 20% off your supplement purchases, use the link in the description and use my promo code that's also in the description, or visit thehannibaltv.com, click on the Braun Strowman banner, and you'll find it. So thanks for the tips. Oh, I forgot to answer. No one even tried to answer my question. What was the only WrestleMania where there was no world title defense? I'll wait for a second here. Someone write it. Someone's got to know. Was not 4. Macho Man won the title at WrestleMania 4. So I guess there wasn't a defense, but Macho Man won. But the only one, yeah, there you go. Jefferson E. White has it. David Hugh has it. WrestleMania 1 was the only WrestleMania where there was no world title match. So we'll end it at that. Thanks for your answers and questions.